ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another edition of Infection Podcast. We cover the very interesting, always evolving intersection of video games and politics. My name is Nick Craig. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Look at my cat just jumping up behind me. You can give me a follow over there on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Couldn't do this thing alone. Definitely not going to be able to do it alone tonight. Brian with an I, Aldridge. Hey, Brian. Hope you're well.
I am doing well, and if you want to find me on Twitter, at Boise Computer, or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social. This week, something totally changed since last week. Something we were saying was going to happen,
It's in the bag.
now all of a sudden, it was in the bag, and then bam. Everybody was confident.
You're up. It's the ninth inning. You're up by a dozen runs.
Yeah.
It's impossible to lose, and somehow the other team scores 13 runs, and you're out. And that is exactly what happened, Brian, with Microsoft. And if nobody, who could have possibly screwed this up but the United Kingdom? I mean, it's like, is it really a surprise?
It is odd that there were not any of them saying publicly, like, we don't want certain aspects. Other than I did hear something about them saying, well, maybe if they locked in not raising the price of the Game Pass, like locking the price of the Game Pass. But I don't know if that was just somebody's opinion of it, or if that's something coming from the actual results.
Now, so this is the UK. This is not the EU. They're good with the EU. Episode 425. So back, I don't know what day.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I was kind of thinking it was the EU, but yeah, this is the UK.
Yeah,
which is
so this was
part
early March. Now, I don't believe the EU has made their official decision. Maybe they have since, but it was rumored. Everybody was like, yeah, this is going to be good to go. And with that, you could only, since the EU is a much more strict regulatory body than the UK government is. That's why a lot of people don't like the EU. You assumed, well, if they made it past the EU, everything is, unicorns and rainbows and lollipops after that. And they did not. The UK regulators blocked it. This is pretty damning. I mean, what do you do?
Well,
what happened?
Yeah,
What did they say?
Well, and this is the thing with the UK doing this, they do have an ability to appeal.
Okay.
Now, one interesting thing is that because both companies, so Activision is appealing and Microsoft is appealing. So both companies are appealing.
Okay.
And the EU or UK is pushing to not allow them to bring this up again for another 10 years.
After it fails. If
it fails, that they're not allowed to re-request for another 10 years.
Well, that would make sense. It's like double jeopardy in a legal system.
It's expensive, and they're not expecting everything to change dramatically, even though it can in 10 years. Doesn't always, but can in 10 years. They're not expecting it to change that much within 10 years. So I personally think that something will happen that'll cause, I mean, is this their final answer? I see that they're acting like it's a final answer, but I'm assuming that with an appeal and maybe some backroom dealings of getting some handshakes done, that perhaps the UK will say, hey, we're willing to now change what our opinion is.
Let's take a look at a couple of quotes. So the regulator said that the number of monthly active users for cloud gaming in the UK has tripled. Listen to this. Tripled between the start of 2021 and the end of 2022. That is remarkable. They say Microsoft has this is directly from the regulator now, the UK regulator. Microsoft has a strong position in cloud gaming services, and the evidence available to the CMA, that's their equivalent of the federal FTC, essentially, the group that would look at it here in the U.S. The CMA showed that Microsoft would find it commercially beneficial to make Activision's games exclusive to its own gaming service. When water is wet. Microsoft already accounts for an estimated 60 to 70% of global cloud gaming services and has other important strengths in cloud gaming from owning Xbox, the leading PC operating system Windows, which I think is bullshit. That's ridiculous. And a global cloud computing infrastructure, Azure, and Xbox Cloud Gaming. The deal would reinforce Microsoft's advantage in the market by giving it control over important gaming content such as Call of Duty, Overwatch, and World of Warcraft. The evidence available to the CMA indicates that absent the merger, Activision would start providing games via cloud platforms in the foreseeable future, adding, allowing Microsoft to take such a strong position in the cloud gaming market just as it begins to grow rapidly would risk undermining the innovation that is crucial to the development of these opportunities. So, Brian, harping back to last week, maybe Sony's complete and total ineptness and incompetence with their streaming service was the Hail Mary.
Is what saved them. You're so bad at your job that you save the deal.
Yeah, exactly. You're so stupid and incompetent that you somehow were able to swindle yourself into keeping the job. That's pretty remarkable.
The UK, so that's the Competition and Markets Authority, is the CMA.
Okay.
And the fact that they are willing to do any business with Google, who I think has a much higher percentage of search results, or has up until recently, percentage of search results, in the industry that it's in. Same thing with Netflix. They have an extremely high percentage of the number of users that do that thing. They're pretty much all on Netflix. They're pretty much all on certain services or using certain services. And this UK CMA continues to do business with them. So here you're acting like, oh, they're going to own a lot. But the thing is, they do it best. And so they're going to be the ones that people use, just like Netflix did it best. So people used it, just like, you name the service that people are using in mass. There's a reason for that, because it works.
So this is, Google is at 85%. This is as of February. Bing is at 8. Yahoo is at 2. Baidu, which is, I believe, Chinese, is at 0.42. Yandex, that can't be a U.S. service, is at 1.27, and DuckDuckGo is at 0.74, so almost a quarter of a percent. So Google's got almost 86% of the market share, which is what you would expect.
So let's say in this case, if Google said, we have the opportunity to really improve our search results by doing an acquisition, are you going to tell them, no, you're already too good at what you're doing? No, you can't, because that's the equivalent of what this kind of is. They're bringing in product that will enhance what they provide. If Google said through an acquisition, we can make it to where our search results, or whether it's AI or whatever, we can make it this much more accurate and faster and more what the person wants. And they're going to say no, because then the other people won't be able to compete with you even more. Well, how's that their fault?
You want to go through Bobby Kotick's statement?
Yeah.
So he says, today, the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, a regulatory agency in the UK, decided not to approve our merger with Microsoft. So he's writing this to the employees of Activision. This isn't the news we wanted, but it's far from the final word on this deal. All right. Alongside Microsoft, we can and will contest this decision, and we've already begun to work on the appeal to the UK Competition Appeals Tribunal. What the hell? What are we in, Brian? The freaking 1500s? Oh,
feels
bring
like
it to the tribunal. I mean, what the hell? I mean, these people are so screwed up. No, no offense. I know we have some UK listeners, but Jesus Christ. I mean, like, the appeals tribunal? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, hey, that's what they call it.
We're confident in our case because the facts are on our side. The deal is good for competition. The UK hopes to grow its leadership position in technology, and combined Microsoft Activision would accomplish exactly that. At a time when the fields of machine learning and artificial intelligence are thriving, we know the UK market would benefit from Microsoft's bench strength in both domains, as well as our ability to put those technologies to use immediately. By contrast, if the CMA decision holds, it would stifle investment, competition, and job creation through the UK gaming industry. This merger is a complex process. I'm not the only one frustrated by the hurdles and delays. We're accustomed to a company culture that moves quickly to accomplish big goals, so it's tough when we can't close things out at our usual energetic pace. We'll keep pressing our case because we know that this merger will benefit our employees, the broader UK tech workforce, and players around the world. I'm going to do everything I personally can to advocate for us and help regulators understand the competitive dynamics in our industry. What gives me confidence is that whether our own or united with another company, we are one of the strongest companies in our industry, poised for continued growth and building on our incredible IP. So, Brian, I guess the question here is, can they go through with this merger without the UK? Because I mean, that's Google. Google still operates outside of the United Kingdom, so I don't really understand.
Here would be the ultimate play. Microsoft and Activision Blizzard fully extract out of the UK, have no business dealings with the UK, so that they don't have a vote in the whole thing because they're not at risk of being affected.
Yeah.
Then you move forward with it, and then if the UK wants to decide to come back, and allow the company to do business in their country, then they'll make that choice.
And that's exactly,
there could be some huge corporate play if you really want to push it.
Well, so Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, told the BBC pretty much, he said, quote, "This is the darkest day for Microsoft in its 4 decades of working in Britain," saying that the European Union is a more attractive place to start a business than the UK. So if the UK regulators don't go through with this, they're just going to say, fuck it, close everything in Britain and move it all over into the European Union. That's what they'll do.
Might as well.
And then just rip all those jobs out of the UK.
Yep. And that will show them to play games in this kind of type of an environment. That's the thing is the certain people think they have all the power and they want to flex it. And here you're playing with huge things by doing that. When there's not a legitimate reason that they could bring that hasn't already been answered that would cause them to reject this.
Now, you hate to paint with a broad brush, but sometimes you do paint with a broad brush, and it would appear, at least to me, if I'm this CMA body or anybody else, that if it's seemingly every other regulatory entity in the world that has a vested interest in Microsoft and Activision is approving this deal or in the process of approving this deal. I know, Brian, wild idea, but maybe we should probably approve it too, because there's just the idea that all of them are wrong and that all of them are just missing whatever CMA is ginning up. To me, doesn't really pass any sort of doesn't pass any sort of logical test at all.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, if half of the regulators were like, if it was like a 50-50 split, or if there was a couple of regulators that were like, oh, this was an issue, but when they got the EU, the last week it was the Japanese, I believe it was the Japanese regulatory agency that approved it. It appears that they're going to get the approval they need in the United States. It just seems to me to be a very odd thing.
Does this have to be 100%? I mean, that's maybe something I don't quite 100% understand about this whole process.
Yes.
Can there be people that are holdouts?
Well, then if someone can't operate in those places.
Yeah. Okay. Then don't operate there.
Well, that's what they're going to have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. But this makes it where they can still pretty much move forward and then enact what my idea was. Just pretty much pull out of that place. Say, hey, we don't have the authority to do business here. Sorry. We're going to have to close up shop. All these jobs, you can transfer out of the country if you'd like to retain your job. But, the whole EU, it covers a decent number of countries, right? So there's plenty of other places nearby that they could do business.
Now, The Verge, who I don't typically think their reporting is all that decent, they seem to have a little bit of context here. They say, UK regulators have been cracking down on mergers and acquisitions in recent years, coinciding with the UK's exit from the European Union, or aka Brexit. To fight its latest decision, Microsoft will have to file the notice But they note that the CMA has won 67% of all merger appeals since 2010. So let's use even round numbers. They win 70% of their appeals. So it's not like it's impossible, but it doesn't seem very likely. Now they note that Meta, Facebook, bought Giphy, the GIF toolbar or the GIF search thing that's in Discord and every other app. Meta battled with the CMA over its Giphy acquisition and was able to do that. They eventually had to comply with the UK watchdog group and divest itself from the library because I believe that Giphy was a UK company. But so it appears that this agency is just hell-bent on making it really tough for technology in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and I think if there's a serious impact that happens from that, because it sounds like they generally are blocking things, and then they want you to come to them and probably get either some sort of extra perks or whatever. But I would think here that if it impacts the person on the street, right, the UK citizen, to where they're not getting something that they want, it will make them push back, and how much that effect that has in that country, who knows? But I think that because what's the risk from CMA? Like they get extreme and they generally get what they want, right?
Yeah.
Either they get it blocked or they get the agreement that they want. With this, Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, I think are big enough to where they could push past and end up winning in the end because people want the product.
Yeah, there's a lot of even smaller countries that we haven't even been tracking, Brian. Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Chile, Serbia, Japan, and South Africa have already approved the deal.
Yep.
And the EU as well. Plus, the FTC seemingly indicates that they will likely do that.
I didn't hear anything about Australia. You never know what Australia
I don't know. Does Microsoft have a?
You would think they would have something there, but maybe they don't have what they would.
The fact that they've got something in Serbia and Chile and Brazil, I would assume
that makes me wonder. It's odd that we haven't heard anything about Australia.
There might, depending on the country and depending on how their laws are written, there might not be an agency that it has to go in front of. I mean, the process might be completely different. Now, of course, why is this a big issue? Well, Microsoft is trying to close the deal by the end of its 23 fiscal year, which ends next month, June. That doesn't seem to be possible. The FTC case is apparently still in the document discovery cage with an evidential hearing scheduled for August the 2nd. So right there, that's not looking very, very good either. This is a mess. But they knew it. Here's the thing. This was never going to be a cakewalk. I mean, and it's still not going to be. But I think at the end, they will be successful.
Well, and I hope it just doesn't drag out. I mean, I'm hoping this is something that has a quick resolution and it doesn't take 6 months to a year before they finally actually get a yes or no.
But here's the thing, Brian, and this is prevalent in so many other things. This is a government entity that is doing this.
Yeah.
And government entities don't really have time restraints. Time doesn't equal money because it's all free money anyway that they stole from taxpayers. There's no incentive to get anything done in a quick or meaningful way. Who cares? I mean, they can run out the clock for freaking years. That's all the government does is piss away money and time.
That's my concern.
That's all they do.
Is them dragging it out.
Yeah, and there's no incentive not to. I mean, they don't care.
No.
Who cares if it takes another year? So, I don't know. I really don't know. It's definitely not good. But let's go back to the. I want to dive into. Let me see. I got so many links open here. I want to go back to the original comments from the CMA. So their big concern is over cloud gaming, and that's true. But I've never really understood. Now I've never understood the idea that Microsoft, based on everything else that we've seen from them, why they would risk hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars in revenue by stripping away their big selling IPs from other platforms, established IPs from platforms. I've never understood, I've never heard the point made why they would do that. It's not in their best business interests.
Well, and Microsoft doesn't have a history of doing that. I mean,
No.
if you said Google or certain other companies that will eat away at certain features or just drop things altogether, but Microsoft's not been known to do that. They tend to keep things going as long as it's feasible. They seem to offer as much as they can. I mean, with the Game Pass, they don't nickel and dime you a bunch. Look at how they did the recent Game Pass, the Family Pass, and Friends Pass. Knowing that people are going to treat it a certain way rather than being like Netflix and trying to implement a lot of restrictions into it. They just said, well, hey, you can have, doesn't matter, 5 accounts, and that's your family or your friends, right? Let people use it. Don't sit there and nitpick how they use it, which shows a lot of I think, trying to just be realistic about it. And I think with this, they'll be realistic about it. And that's why they've made the behaviors they have, because they realize that they don't have to have exclusivity over everything to be able to be strong in the market. Where that's Sony's play is, if we can get this exclusive and it hits, then we'll get a bunch of people to buy our console.
Yeah.
Okay, but those are all short-term hits. That Microsoft has figured out a way to build up a large, with the Game Pass and everything else, continuous money-making machine that doesn't rely on the product's hotness at the time and selling temporary things. It's a continuation all the time, and they're doing better, so like they're getting punished for it. It's frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating, and you're right. It's like we built the best product. We used Brian, there's this crazy thing. I'm not sure if you've heard it before. It starts with a C. It's called capitalism. I know this might be this is a very odd concept for the folks over in the UK who lived under fiefdom for gazillion years. But there's this a little thing called capitalism that Microsoft built the best system. Clearly, Sony half-assed this ridiculous PlayStation. It was like plus or something like that. The name was ridiculous. The pricing made no sense. The game catalog was trash. It wasn't good. Then they essentially shut it down. Now they're trying to bring it back up. Microsoft was like, "Hey guys, we've been working on this X Cloud. What's it called? Project X Cloud or something like that for years.
Yeah, something.
And
like
we finally brought it to market. It's a really cool system. People like it. It's relatively affordable. It uses on a bunch of devices. And you're right, they're getting totally screwed for putting in the legwork and having a good system.
Yeah, and figuring out what people would actually be able to use.
A system. Like, I could see the argument would be like, well, Microsoft owns 40% of the market, and then Activision Blizzard, well, their streaming service owns 40% of the market too. So you do simple math, 40-40 is 80, but Activision Blizzard doesn't have a streaming service. So the idea that this is completely destroying the streaming market, to me, doesn't make any sense. Plus, most the games that they reference aren't games that people stream anyway. Overwatch and World of Warcraft, people aren't streaming WoW on a Game Pass service.
Well, and WoW runs on some pretty old hardware. You can run it on laptops, everything else.
You can run on your Dell Inspiron netbook from 2002. If you wanted to. I mean, it'll run on it. It's not going to run very well, but it'll totally run. Go watch YouTube videos from 20 years ago of people, or 15 years ago, of people playing WoW on this old, antiquated hardware. I'm sure you've got some of those videos on your YouTube channel.
Yes,
Brian.
I do. Actually, I do. Yes,
I'm sure you do.
Old YouTube channel.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. It just seems like such a weak argument, but when you get some of the context in there from the Verge article, I guess you can't say you're surprised.
Yeah, and this is the thing. The people that, as you said, that they're worried about certain games from Activision Blizzard being used and making their streaming product extra strong. And as you said, they're not games that they would likely be streaming. The more casual games and games that don't require a lot of really fast response times, those would be the perfect ones for streaming, because it kind of fits the maybe a little bit of delays in there. Well, if you're on a a game that doesn't really have to be super real time fast, like you're making decisions and it's doing a cutscene, those are perfect.
Yeah.
You're not going to notice the difference between a streaming product and this. But I don't see people complaining about Netflix being too good anymore. Now, I used to complain about it, that there were certain things that if you didn't want to have Netflix, like how did you get content? That's changed, and there's a lot of areas that have come in, but it wasn't by stifling Netflix that other products were able to come to be.
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation sold more consoles. You could say PlayStation was more successful, but Microsoft, they're sitting there saying Microsoft too successful or is poised to be too successful. And that's really what it comes down to. So I don't know. Let's see. I think next week after, hopefully there's some answers and maybe this is going to come to closure. I really just want to see it done because I want to see what they do with the Game Pass and what they do with the games to improve them using the Game Pass.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of folks are. Yeah, I think I've said this. I'm pretty sure I've said this before, and could we be completely wrong about this? Is Microsoft the patron saint of business? No, they're like every other miserable, crappy corporation. I mean, they'll do anything for a buck. Yeah. I mean, they're not. Believe me, like they're not this holier than thou organization. But in recent years, I really, I don't have a reason to believe that Microsoft. Now, here's the thing. If they invent, and now there is some legitimacy to the claims that the CMA makes. I want to go back to some of their statements here. This deal would reinforce Microsoft advantage, giving them control. Damn it, where is it?
You're talking about like them having the infrastructure like Azure?
No, it's not even that. Here we go. The CMA showed that Microsoft would find it commercially beneficial to make Activision's games exclusively available on its own cloud gaming service. So here's the thing. How is this any different than the exclusivity market that we've had in consoles since the 1980s?
And I think this is where they could come side by side though and hold up a list of exclusive games on their product and how many are on Sony and just say, why are we the ones risking this happening? Look at how many we have versus the person who's been complaining most about this. If that's their argument, use that and say, well, answer. Is it when we reach the same number of them? Does that mean that we have too many exclusivities?
Yeah.
Like, what point are we having too many when we're equal-sized companies with equal products, and they have way more than we do? Like, so, are we allowed to add some more? You're worried. Give us a number that we're capped at then, right? I mean, what is it going to be?
Well, and that's the thing. It's arbitrary. I mean, it's not there's no ratio to it. There's nothing.
But that's the thing, is there's no logic to it. That's the problem.
No. Well, no. Hold on. I think you're wrong. There is logic to it, but there's no backing to back it up. Like, is there a risk that Microsoft would make all of those games available on just their own platforms? Sure. That is a risk.
It's a possibility, right?
Is it a risk? Yes. But the question is, how is that inherently any different from Sony making games only available on their streaming service? God of War, and up until recently, The Last of Us, and these games were and the only reason I am convinced, the only reason those games made their way to PC is because Sony knew at some point this was going to be a problem, and they could go, "Oh my God, look at us! We're making our games on PC now, even though they suck and they're unplayable." But I mean, really, like Brian, I've never played a God of War game. It's never been available. I wasn't buying a PlayStation, and now to be fair, I've had a PlayStation 4 for like years, but I've never played it, or any other game on it. That's not the point. The point is, this is exclusivity wars. Now, for existing IPs, I don't think Microsoft will do this or Activision will do this. For new IPs, absolutely. That is exactly what I would expect.
Choice, right?
That's exactly what I would expect them to do. That's what they're going to do with Starfall or Starforge, whatever the Star, whatever the hell it's called.
Skyfall or something.
Like that. No, it's not Skyfall. Whatever the game that
Skyrim, or which one are you talking about?
No, the space one that Bethesda's making.
Oh,
Sky,
yeah.
whatever the hell. That's only going to be available on the Xbox, and that's fine. It's their IP. It's not an established franchise.
Starfield. Thank you, Kenrix.
Starfield, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, I'm autistic. You're going to tell me that Microsoft's going to release the brand new Call of Duty, their big golden goose of money, the Call of Duty franchise, and go, we're just not going to release on the best-selling console in the market. That is just illogical. Now, new IP?
Yeah.
Sure. And it's the same reason that Sony is not going to make their next IP, whatever it might be, probably some garbage, make that available immediately on another system. I'm dumbfounded by this whole thing. I really am.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, do you mind if we change topics to another over authoritarian type of government?
No, we love it.
All right. Hey, let's talk about Tencent, which means we're talking about China here.
I love China. Yeah.
But they've been making some changes at Tencent, and they're going to start developing what they call Chat GPT like products. Of course, that's using some sort of AI. And recently there was an announcement that they are releasing a deep fake generator, which if you think about the whole destabilization effort, I mean, let's get a little political here for a second. The whole destabilization effort that China has been trying to do to our country through the things that they've been pushing through TikTok and just through organizations they've been able to get into schools, universities, all types of organizations that push communism or pushes certain ideologies that they know will destabilize the country and separate them, right? The fact that they're now creating a deep fake generator, which is going to do nothing but allow people to create things that cause contention, that can affect the money markets. Sometimes there are things that could put out and people react to that even though it's fake, and it causes stocks to crash or causes different things to happen. So deep fakes are dangerous. I mean, there's no way to really, there's supposedly some ways you can scan them and maybe tell that they're generated, but by your average person, there's no way to really know whether some of these are real or just maybe kind of fuzzy copies of a video or what they are. And they're getting more and more realistic every month or two. It just seems like these things get better.
This whole thing is this is going to be the battle of the next, let's say till 2030. This is going to be the next big battle. Everybody is kind of jumping in, picking up a side on the whole AI and all of that stuff. Are there risks? Sure. Are there concerns? Sure. I'm so hesitant for any sort of regulation. I mean, I really am.
Yeah.
Because we know how it either doesn't work or it's weaponized, and that to me is really, really scary. Now, yes, is there an issue? Will there eventually be an issue with generation, deep fake, and there's issues right now with Chat GPT. I mean, there's big concerns that you could make now with it but Brian, that's, it's innovation. It's new technology.
Well,
and I
part
don't
of the
know
issue.
Yeah.
Here's the danger though. Using Chat GPT type of things. What have we seen in the versions that are available in America is we've seen an incredible bias built into the product. Well, if that's what they're doing in America, what do you think they're going to do in China? As far as trying to push a certain viewpoint, you're going to have a computer answering as if it's answering in the most logical way possible, but it's going to be tilted towards a certain perspective that they've pre-generated and pre-programmed into it to deliver. Just, and when I first told you that they were doing it here, you didn't really believe me. And now once people really got to play in that product and just see how one-sided the answers were. Or if you asked it a question and said, a skin color of white, it would give a totally different answer than if you said black, where it would say it's okay to bash a white person, but it's not okay to say anything negative about any other race. Things like that they implemented into there that are going to make it to where these kids coming up who talk to this thing and try to get, learn from it, they are going to be just like the news is, programmed to view one viewpoint.
Sure.
And that's going to be the danger of this. And here they're making it to where they don't have to think about it so much. They just program in the bias, let it scan data as it comes in, and it's a continuous way that they continue to brainwash or influence people on something regardless of whether it's true or not. I mean, here we have to spend a lot of money to do it. They generate nightly news and do all these things and have all these writers, like that are on strike right now. They have all these people to maintain that propaganda machine and keep it going, and it's a full-time business. Here, they can program it in, and it just does the bias itself. It's very smart for getting it out.
Brian, I am going to do something I don't know that I have ever done on this program before. I am going to pull a politics card out of my hat and say, okay, I have not formed an opinion on this yet, and we will discuss. And I really haven't. I am so there is so much to. Well, here's the thing, it's not black and white. There is an incredible amount of gray area there, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. And I think every situation with AI, I think there is factors that need to be looked at. There's some folks that are like, ban it completely, and I think that's ridiculous. And there's other folks that are like, hog wild. It's gonna let it do whatever it wants to. Let anybody do what they want to do. And it's like, well, I mean, okay, but there's guardrails on a whole bunch of things. But I really haven't formed an opinion on it yet. I mean, you're everybody, you're seeing a lot. I mean, Elon Musk was on, I think it was on Tucker Carlson show like 2 weeks ago, talking about the future of AI. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Well, and that's the thing. My worry is I can understand why they'd want some guardrails, because let's say someone asks it to formulate the most efficient method of killing a mass amount of people. Okay, sure. It could give them very accurate and maybe things that would cause more damage. It could give them that information. You could just have it, if they ask the right questions, the government officials will get notified.
Knock on the front door.
Or you could,
FBI
or what you could do what they're doing and refuse to deliver that content. Yes. But where does that line stop?
Well, and that's it, exactly.
So I understand not serving that, but then how does that then reach that the political level where it's just things that are not even important? Like, you're not even willing to deliver factual information and you cover it up with a statement because you don't like the results of that factual information. I'd almost rather have it be open like the internet, right? It's just data sets that people are accessing, and just what it gives you is what it gives you, right? Or there's got to be some standards, like a body where they go through and try to keep it as open as possible, and they only block off things that are not for political reasons. I mean, you'd have to create a body that would do it, and how would you get them to be honest?
Yeah. Put a bunch of bureaucrats in charge of it. That's
it's just there's a no. It's a no. That's why I'm almost would like the open as the internet. Just let people build upon it.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying that I haven't formed an opinion yet, because I don't. We have so much stuff has come to light in the last couple of years in regards to, and this is very hyper localized to the United States. So if you're elsewhere, sorry, but there's just been so much stuff that has come to light with election stuff and the FBI and other entities sitting on information or propping up information in FISA courts and spying and all these other things. It's like, I'm terrified of I mean, you had the leak from the United States Supreme Court by some, wackadoo clerk that was working for either Ketanji Jackson Brown or Elaine Kagan. And it's like, what in, I don't trust anybody or anything, Brian. I don't. Like,
Yeah.
there's zero trust of any authority because it's so deceitful and misleading. And then it's like, well, hi, I'm the government and I'm here to help. And it's like, well, no, you're not. I saw a meme this week and it was a snake wrapped itself around a bird feeder and it was poking its head through the front and it said, hi, I'm the government and I'm here to help. And it's like, yeah, that's the problem. Anytime we're here to help, those are like some of the worst words ever. Hi, I'm from the government. And I just, no. But at the same time,
but the thing is,
yes, because so I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, look at the internet. The internet was something that was, as we talked about before, the wild, wild west in the early days, right?
Well, you're the subject matter expert on this. I mean, you were there. You were the
yes.
you were the cowboy. You were the Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. So that's the thing is back then it was the wild, wild west, and I'm really glad that they didn't jump in. Now there are regulations that individuals, but on the internet infrastructure, they didn't put in a lot of restrictions, right? They kept it open and just said to law enforcement, prosecute these people by whatever means of getting information.
Yeah.
We don't just shut off the ability to use IRC because a lot of people use it poorly. And so I worry about that for ChatGPT and all of these AI products, that because it's kind of the wild, wild west right now and the knee-jerk reaction is to let's regulate it. I'm glad they didn't do that so much on the internet. And if they could maintain that type of thinking with AI, as far as we want it to be open and not, not necessarily free because people can train their own things. But if it's something that's publicly available and you're treating it like the Google, like what restrictions do we put on Google to not, now they do give a more biased response sometimes, right? But they can't just only give one faction's results.
Now, what they have done I've never seen this myself, Brian, because I would never search for these kinds of things. But if you happen to be searching for copywritten material, like a television show or a movie on Google, like if you were to type in movie torrent or movie download, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a little note that says something like some results have been omitted due to DMCA. That's the Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA, whatever the acronym. So they do things like that, and I think that one would argue that's not okay. Others would say that is okay. So there is some parameters.
That's
for
regulating how you access it, though, right? They're not regulating the source unless they go through the legal means to do that.
Well,
they're trying to filter how you get to that. Okay, do the same thing in these AI type of things. Make it to where maybe the data's not affected, the data is clean. And then make it to where accessing it is the only way that you're going to make those changes. I just worry about them building it into the core.
Yeah. So here, where is it? Of course, I can't find it. Yeah, here it is. So this is an example of what it looks like. This is from some website here. In response to a complaint we received, so this is not an automatic system. This is from a couple years ago, too. We received under the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. We removed 2 results from this page. If you wish to read more, blah, blah, you can do that. So that's how Google has handled that process. Donnie is in the chat and is saying, I'm in love with AI image generation. Have been doing it like crazy. I enjoy about 90% of the results. I've been using AI in some regards to help me clean up some writing. Like I'll write something, either some show stuff or whatever it might be. Like invite to an event. Like for example, we held a meeting for our Young Republican group a couple weeks ago, and I was like, literally went into ChatGPT and I was like, write me an event that's taking place at this date, this time, at this location. Boom, full like. And yeah, I've been very happy with the results as well, Donnie. I think it's awesome. It's convenient. It helps clean up. I'm using it to draft emails, to like mass email things to an email list. Like, hey, this is clean, and I'll literally write clean this up, put it in quotes, and then it dumps the result and cleans it up a little bit.
And I have a book that's from the 1940s or 50s. It's a book about etiquette. And if you think about what that book provided, it told people in any situation, I mean, it's a really thick book, pretty much in any situation, the proper way to respond or proper way to do whatever.
Sure.
But if they also have in there the proper way to write certain type of letters, the proper way to address them, how to, if you think about what that book was to them, that's the equivalent of what AI is to us now. Because we're, rather than having kind of a preset one that when we're then figuring out, well, let me fill in my information to make it still seem, official.
Yeah.
But I'm using their template. Now you're giving them the data, and it's coming up with the rest of the shell for you. Like, I don't. That to me is not bad. That's a great use of the product.
Yes.
What happens when they say to reverse engineer software and to make something that runs exactly like something else? Well, right now, if you reverse engineer something, that's not illegal, right?
Well,
what about when an AI does it in a couple hours?
Yeah, well, when you're Compaq and you've technically never looked at any of the, you've never actually touched an IBM chip, and you've somehow managed to completely
make the exact same one.
The exact same one. Amazing how that happens using all of their various tools. But the Compaq example is a great example of reverse engineering. I mean, and there's a couple of nonfiction there's a couple of documentaries, nonfiction documentaries, and a couple of fiction movies on it. And it's fascinating. Donnie says, I had a really negative first impression of AI, or first impression on writing and art, but it's growing on me. I feel the exact same way. I mean, my initial thought was like, meh, whatever. I think it was at this point about 6 months ago, right when we did our big episode on AI. Mm-hmm. We talked about that, and you and I screwed around with it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this is all right. This is kind of interesting. And now I'm literally have it. It has replaced the first bookmark in my Chrome, which used to be Outlook. And now it's Chat GPT, because I'm just using it to clean things up all the time.
Well, and I just subscribed to the, it's something from GitHub, where it gives you code suggestions.
Okay, cool.
And it uses AI, and it looks at your code, and it will, as you're writing, say offer to complete it for you.
Ooh,
I haven't really seen it yet because I've only been editing code that I've already written. I haven't since I subscribed in the last couple of days. I haven't done anything where I'm making big sections from scratch where it would fill in. But that's the kind of use where I look at it. I have actually used it to try to debug my code and things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of great uses. And I think as long as they don't try to control it too much, people will make things that work well. And sure, they'll make things sometimes that they shouldn't, but I think the innovation will be worth it.
This happens every couple. This happens about, the last time this happened, the real big last time this happened was with the iPhone, which we think has been out forever. Reality, it's been out and really only been at what it is now since about 2010. The first one came out in 2008, and didn't have an app store until 2009. So I mean, you're talking about 13 years, and all of a sudden it's like, it's a thing that's always, this thing has always existed, even though it's not always existed. I mean, it's amazing how quickly that's happened. And we're in the period where everybody is kind of battling for power, and there's a lot of doomsdayers. And Donnie says, my concern is, with creativity, but my rebuke to that is, well, I know how to use WordPress, and I can make a website that looks really great inside of WordPress. And that got rid of things like Front Page and InDesign and all these other Dreamweaver and all these other things that you had to know a little bit of programming for. Does that make me less creative because I didn't have the ability to learn how to use one of those things, but I could figure out a WYSIWYG editor, but I couldn't use something like that. And I struggle with that, because if you apply that same logic to every other technological innovation that we've had in the last 60 years, we'd need no more than 2 megabytes worth of RAM, Brian. If that's if that's the approach we took, we wouldn't need any of that stuff. And this happens. Yep. This is innovation. Eventually, the AI will rule, take over, and kill us all. And I'm okay with that because that's where I'm at. I am.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. You've accepted your fate.
Hopefully, I'll be dead by that time. I mean, I'd really hate to be like the guy, the crazy Uncle Eddie from the Will Smith movie, Independence Day, driving my F-15 straight into the mothership. But it's gonna happen. There's obviously a marketplace for it. People will adapt. Well, they always have. They always will.
That's the thing is, I remember when people were saying WordPress and things like that made it to where websites were more methodical, right?
Sure.
And people viewed that. People could view that as a negative because it just seems more robotic. Things are lined up in certain ways, or posts are made and lined up in certain ways. But if you look at where that technology transitioned to where now the methodical makes it to where it lays out better on a cell phone when you're viewing a web page on a cell phone, and all these things have come out of it to where they've realized there's a lot of benefits because of doing it that way, where the old way wasn't really, couldn't grow as much. And so I think with AI, we're going to run into the exact same thing. People are playing with it for different things, but it's going to get integrated into almost every feature that you do. I mean, Microsoft Word is going to build it into their system to where when you're writing a letter, it offers to finish the letter for you. Or you can ask it to give you, can I have some paragraphs about this? How that's going to affect schooling and everything else is, I think, a battle that they're still trying to figure out. But this is like the internet. You could go get your answers a lot easier, and I'm sure people had the same feelings back then about students. You could go the internet, and it's so much easier than having to go through the encyclopedias. It's so unfair. Well, now everybody does it, and I think you're going to get the exact same thing. All these products are going to give AI suggestions and make things to where here's the most likely thing that you would want to say.
Not only does everybody do it now, but it is encouraged now, right? When there is no such thing as I don't even know that they're do they even do encyclopedia sets anymore? Is that even a thing? Like, can you get an encyclopedia set, a modern one? I mean, maybe you can. I don't know.
I don't know how new they are, but yeah, they do have them.
But that's what I'm asking. Are they new? DVD? Like are they still producing new encyclopedia sets? Yeah. So
but I think they're all digital. They got rid of the books.
Well, so there you go. So now, I mean, having it on a DVD versus having it on a search engine is 6.5 one, a half dozen the other. It's not. There's no different. No difference there at all. So, Donnie's saying the market will decide. Consumers will always pick the best thing. They don't care who creates something. It's true in video games, music of all forms, art, whatever it might be. Yeah. Now, here's the thing: consumer doesn't always pick the right thing. I mean, that's VHS was inferior to Betamax, but that's what the consumers picked. And that leads you to the next thing. I mean, there will be something after AI. There will be something after the something that's after AI. There will be something after the something after the something after the AI. I mean, this is technology. This is how we advance as a civilization. I mean, this is, when you get really into this, Brian, and get off the top layer of where all the noise is, this is a deep, this is a deep exercise of mankind, growth, and innovation. I mean, this is a really, you can very much get into even super deep philosophical stuff with this.
Well, this is one of those moments, like what the internet was as far as a juxtaposition, a pivot point. Sure. That's the same thing that AI is going to be. It's going to be another one of those pivot points where someone like me who remembers life before the internet and how things were. You didn't have cell phones. You couldn't just look up something at the drop of a hat. And now seeing how it is now, I think it's going to be that same kind of transition to where your kids are not going to necessarily know any different because it's the new way of doing it. But hey, before AI, when you wrote a letter, you had to think of every single word. It was so annoying. That's what they're going to be saying. Where now, as with AI coming out, you can say, hey, give me an apology letter, for this, and it'll write you up an apology letter.
I've seen some pretty funny things online about fake apology letters that I thought have been pretty funny. So yeah, I now, the original point you brought us up is China and Tencent. That is a whole nother bag of worms. I mean, that's some danger red alert. That's the Chinese Communist Party, playing a role in what's going on. But at the same point, we've had conversations on this show. I've done a lot of my radio show about TikTok. I mean, it's a very similar conversation. So,
well, and one interesting thing that we haven't really talked about it a lot, but the people that receive those funds, the chip makers that receive those funds for the federal funds from CHIPS Act, I think they called it.
Yeah, the CHIPS Act.
They're barred from expanding anything in China for 10 years. And now this has China upset. Sorry, do you mind if we cover this really quick? Since we're talking China?
Sure. Let's do it. Well, Biden did something good. This is interesting.
But China now is putting a national security probe on Micron, which is based out of out of Idaho, actually, out of here.
Yes.
Micron was started here. They were a part of that CHIPS funding, and now China is started a national security probe about them. Has been causing, just raising a lot of concern, I guess you could say, about it, and just trying to, I think, run them out of the country. But because Micron, I always kind of take it for granted here because it's always been here. It's just Micron, but they're a very worldwide known company. And they serve a lot of products in a lot of places. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that, because I think they've just started using the funds, or now they've just got approved to build the $1 billion Micron place in, it's not here.
Ohio.
They're doing one here, but Ohio or something like that. Yeah. So what's interesting is those things, now we have China getting mad and starting to crack down on those companies. Well, to me, that only says that Biden made a decision, well, whether it was Biden directly or not, but made a decision that was actually possibly positive for the Americans rather than for China, and that made China mad. China hasn't been very mad lately in the past couple of years. So
no reason.
I think that I think now maybe things like this, if we can continue to eat away at them stealing, not so we're giving it away practically, but our infrastructure. All these different things that we give away or selling to organizations like this, we just have to remember they don't have our best interest at heart.
Never.
That's why they're mad about about them expanding here and not doing more business there, because they have their own best interest at heart, which is totally natural. But I think it's weird how we're supposed to pretend like we're not supposed to have our own best interest at heart in everything that we do. That's just how humans are. Here, let's make it to where Americans have jobs and Americans have all these things because, these are American companies and we're America. That's our justification.
You're like
just
Randy
like China
Marsh.
does the same thing.
Thought this was America.
Yeah, thought so. And so I think that's the thing is we need to start making decisions for America. Biden is not the one who's going to be doing that. But I think America, having gone without and having been affected by so many things with the economy, maybe they'd be willing to make a change. Be interested to see if they do.
Yeah. Pro tip, don't die. Brings it all back to context. Every company has their own best interests at heart, and they don't care about anything but the bottom dollar. Correct. That is correct.
Capitalism.
No, that's not. That's just human.
Now they have brought into capitalism, but restrictions and regulations to keep things clean and healthy. Your own best interest at heart is the line is you don't sit there and destroy everything around you.
I have I have my own best interest at heart. That doesn't mean I go and kill my neighbor. I mean, like that. Like that just
there's got to be common sense regulation.
But it's not even regulation. It's just my best interest doesn't mean that I have to kill everybody I know. Yeah, but I mean, just because
I'm not saying government regulation, but control. How about control?
Yeah, I mean, I want to protect my house, so I just kill everybody because I don't want anybody coming to my house. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. No, I put a security system on. I put motion detected floodlights. I put cameras. I buy a gun. There's things that you can do to do that don't involve, murdering your entire neighborhood. Like that just, you can have those, you can look out for yourself, always look out for number one. I mean, that's the thing as old as time, but.
Do you think that they should have put in that clause that you can't expand in China for 10 years if you get these funds?
I think it's a good idea. I hadn't heard that. So give the devil his due. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But here's the thing: these companies probably aren't operating under the same name in China anyway, or they're vested interest in another company, so it probably won't matter anyway.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I mean, this is something that Micron's embroiled in it right now. I'm sure.
Well, we're not
other
expanding our
companies.
plant, but the company we own 98% of in Shanghai, they're expanding their facilities in China. Wow, I mean,
Well,
wow,
then
I can't believe that's happening.
If you have a parent company, just have exactly another organization under the parent company. Go do that business, and you don't.
Doesn't
have to
even
worry
need to be a parent company. Just have another company in China that you control. I mean, that's what the Chinese do with Tencent. I mean, they don't own Tencent, but they own Tencent.
But they control them.
Yeah, have enough board seats, and you're good to go. Well, Brian, great show. A lot of interesting conversations. We'll keep a close eye on the illustrious United Kingdom, and I guess we'll be back at it next week. Where can people find you?
All right, well, you can find me on Twitter at Boise Computer or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, whatever other one comes along and goes away. If you want to go check out my website, biteoftech.com. Of course, if you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, you can go and check out our Discord server. We got 11 ARC servers running there right now, a Conan Exile server running, have a show news channel. So if there's a topic maybe you think we should be covering or you want to make sure we see, toss a link to it in the show news channel. We'll review that for the next show. Also have you can join different channels so you don't have to see politics if you don't want to. If you want to watch the show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube or Rumble. If you want to listen to it, down the lower right-hand side, we've got a lot of different platforms and devices and ways that you can listen to the show. Pick whichever one is most convenient, and that's recorded and uploaded after the shows are done. Also, that means our show notes are going to be there. So if you go into the particular episode, there's an audio-video player in there and links for everything that we discussed throughout the live show. So if there's maybe a video or something that you wanted to go see or read the rest of an article that we referenced, just jump onto that page and you'll be able to pull up everything as you go. So makes it really easy. If you want to support us, there's support option up top or infectionpodcast.com/support.
I knew I fixed it. I was so glad that I found that PNG that I lost last week. Yes, thanks for the continued support. Great to see everybody in the old chat room tonight as well. And we will do it again next week. Brian, as always, appreciate all the heavy lifting beforehand, getting all the notes and stuff compiled. Greatly appreciated.
No problem.
Alrighty, folks. That's going to do it. If you want to check out my antics, you can do so by visiting nickcraig.com or checking out the Wilmington's Morning News Podcast, 5 days a week, 3 hours of live talk radio. You can find out all the details there, or shoot me or give me a follow on Twitter. I've been pissing off a lot of interesting people. You can follow me over there at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, if you missed any portion of this show, as Brian said, you can find the show notes and all of the details on our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.